Hey, all you Gretas and Chutescots out there. Welcome to Chapter 4, Section 1 Notes. What is biodiversity and why is it important? So, biological diversity or biodiversity is the variety of Earth's species, the genetic material they contain, the ecosystems in which they live, and the ecosystem processes such as energy flow and nutrient cycling. Oh, that's a lot of words. So, bio means life, and diversity means variety. So it's all of the variety of life on Earth, and it comes in different ways that we're going to talk about. It can be in your genes, it can be in the ecosystems, or the processes. So this is one of the three big scientific factors of sustainability. So we will be talking a lot about biodiversity throughout this year. Very quickly and simply, the more biodiversity you have, the better and healthier the environment is. The lower the biodiversity, the less healthy it is. So, species diversity. Species diversity describes the variety of species present in an ecosystem and their abundance within that ecosystem. So, it's how many species. So, if you look at a tree, say here in Indiana, you might have like 10 different species of bugs. But if you look at a tree in the rainforest, you'll have over 1,000 different bugs in one tree. Pretty cool. So, species diversity is much higher in the rainforest than it is here in Indiana. We have about 2 million species identified on Earth. The actual total ranges somewhere between 7 and 10 million, maybe as many as 100 million. Most people are guessing somewhere around that 10 million species mark. So if you want to identify something new, get into science. Genetic diversity is the variety of genes found in a population or species. So just look around your classroom and you can see a whole lot of different variety in genes. So remembering from freshman year, genetic information gives rise to traits that are passed on to offspring. So you are who you are because of your genes, and you will pass those genes on to your offspring. More genetic diversity means that the species as a whole has a better chance of surviving and adapting to environmental changes. If everyone is a little bit different, somebody is going to survive, depending on whatever it is. If everybody is the same, one thing can wipe everybody out. So once again, more diversity, better for survival. So here's an example. So this is the population of snails, and they ended up on a beach with white sand. There's definitely some of these little guys are going to survive. If they ended up maybe somewhere in Indiana where the soil is more red and clay, then these guys would be better. Or maybe they're in one of those awesome beaches in Hawaii with the black sand, and then these guys would be better suited to survive. So because they have this genetic diversity within their population, some of the snails will survive to go on and pass those genes on to the next generation. Ecosystem diversity, once again, is the diversity of ecosystems. So the more ecosystems you have, once again, the more different kinds of life you're going to be able to support and the more stable an area is going to be. So think back to your biomes, which we'll be talking about in a chapter or two. You have deserts, grasslands, forests, mountains, oceans, lakes, rivers, and wetlands. So your biomes is those major habitats. If you get a large enough area of an ecosystem, it becomes a biome with very distinct climate and plants and animals therein. So because we have this great diversity of ecosystems, lots of different things can survive in those different areas, and we have a healthier world. Functional diversity. So function is what you do. So functional diversity is the variety of processes that occur within ecosystems, such as energy flow and matter cycling. So the more different things that can happen within an ecosystem, once again, the better it is. So we're looking at the variety of roles that organisms play in their communities and the impact these roles have on the overall ecosystem. Sometimes more than one species may share the same function. And understand that if an ecosystem contains many species that share functional traits, that ecosystem will be better able to withstand some species loss without losing functionality. So I am so not a sports person, but I'm going to make a sports analogy here. You cannot be a great football team if everyone is a quarterback, or everyone is a linebacker, or everyone is a kicker. You need to have people doing different jobs within the football team to have a good team. And even if you do have a good team, you're going to need a backup or two, just in case you lose somebody or somebody gets hurt. So that's kind of functional diversity. The best sports teams out there have good players at all positions and have a good backup or two. And the weaker sports teams are not going to have all of those positions filled, and they're not going to have a backup in case somebody is one torn ACL away from being benched. So there's that. Insurance hypothesis. So biodiversity ensures ecosystems against a decline in their functioning because many species provide greater guarantees of functioning even if others fail. So once again, you're kind of insured to have the higher biodiversity is, the more you are insured to survive. Biologically diverse ecosystems are more likely to contain species with traits that enable them to adapt to changes in their environment. So the more diverse you are, they tend to have those species that can adapt, can change, can respond to the environment, and therefore live and keep on going. So just once again, repeating that same concept of the more biodiversity, the better it is going to be for the survival of that ecosystem. Now, biodiversity does something called building natural capital. So it's going to maintain natural capital that helps keep us alive and supports our ecosystems. So it can provide us raw materials for resources such as food, medicine, building materials, fuel, because we use a lot of that stuff from nature. And it provides ecosystem services such as air and water purification, topsoil renewal, which is just making more topsoil, decomposition of waste, and pollination. It also allows for evolution of new species and ecosystem services. So once again, more biodiversity, more benefits for everyone, including the humans that are using these things. And you have finished section 1. So before I go, I want to take the chance to let each and every one of you know that you are good enough, you are smart enough, and people do like you. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good God, do your homework.